What is the essential thing that to check in the Scrum Master's job description or JD, as there is so much of confusion on the role? What are the key skills to look into before applying for the Scrum Master job?
Okay, well, the first thing I would say is anybody going for a Scrum Master job must, number one, first and foremost, know Scrum well. That seems to be a bit trite. I mean, people say that, but you should understand not only what is Scrum, but what isn't Scrum as well. So anybody who's going to be in a Scrum Master job, I should be able to point to any sentence in the Scrum Guide and say, explain what that is, explain how. So they should be able to give me not only what it means, not just read it out, but give me an example of what it is, an example of what it isn't, as if they're going to be teaching it back to me. Now, for that, if they know Scrum well and also know non-Scrum well, so think about they must know Lean, XP, Kanban, theory of constraints, other things around that. When you look at a job description, very often you can infer from there what companies do not understand what Scrum is. But I've always said to people, this shouldn't be a red flag to you to go running screaming from the hills. This should actually be a red rag to a bull. It should be attracting you, because the job descriptions often is an indication of how badly that organisation needs you and how well they misunderstand Scrum. Okay, so my feeling is don't look at the job description and think they really don't know what it is. Look at it and think they need me to come and help them. Okay, so that's essentially my first point, is think about as they definitely need you. What is it I can do when I'm there?
That's very interesting point that you mentioned to understand what Scrum is and what not Scrum is all about. Would you like to talk more about it when you say what Scrum is and what is not? So are you referring to some complementary practices that we have, or some anti-patterns that you do see?
Yes, there are a number of things out there. The Scrum Guide is fairly clear about what is Scrum, but anything missing from the Scrum Guide doesn't necessarily mean it's banned. Now, I'm mindful of if you've got Team A and Team B, and both of these teams are actually using user stories, but Team A is using them, recognising that they're not automatically a product backlog item. There are other product backlog items. They've used them before. They see the benefits of doing so. They love having conversations with the end users and drawing them out. And Team B are using user stories because that's what the Scrum Master has taught them, and they're not allowed to look at the Scrum Guide, and they don't know any better. So both teams are using user stories, but for exactly different reasons, and it is all down to there isn't just Scrum practices you need to look at. So I'm also mindful that any Scrum Master, as well as knowing Scrum and knowing some other practices outside of Scrum, I think when they're first going for the job, they should really forget about Scrum and think of them as being a newcomer. So anybody new to the company should think about, I need to understand how this company works. I need to understand what's going on first. Most people are born with 2 eyes and 2 ears and 1 mouth, so they should be taking in 4 times the amount of information. And I think in the first 3 months, the only thing a Scrum Master or somebody new in that position should be saying is questions to get more information. You've probably seen on LinkedIn people say, if you're the Scrum Master and you're talking most in meetings, then there's something wrong. And I firmly believe that. I think the SM should actually be talking the least. In fact, they shouldn't even be there in most cases if they've done the right job. And for me, it is a case of if you, as an SM, know what the SM does and what the team should be doing, but I also think if you're coaching other people, really, you shouldn't just have PSM, you should have PSPO, you should have a professional Scrum developer, you should understand who these people are, but also recognise what else needs to be in the firm itself.